Yeah, look, I'm excited to be here. I think last time I was at an event in Philadelphia, it was 11 years ago. And I didn't have enough money to pay for a hotel, so we stayed at the Sisters of Mercy Hotel across from the train station. It was basically a convent for $30 a night. I think that's what it was. So we've come a long way. But I think it's a good analogy, at least Qualtrics is, to the track that research technology has taken. I think we're smart entrepreneurs. I think we're good business people. But I also think we bet on a vehicle that had to take some time and take its course. When we first started, and I'm going to go over kind of a little bit of the history of Qualtrics. We started in a basement in 2001. And we stayed there for 5 years. We could not give away our platform. No one would want to do what we were proposing, which was this online enterprise research. We did find some people that were interested in listening to us, primarily the academic community. Do we have any academics in the room? Okay, we got a few. Okay, we love you and we hate you. We love you because you're forward-thinking, and you can sit around and dream up of question types and weird ways to do research all day long. We hate you because you have no money. No, our academic roots are very strong, and we support the academic world in research in a very, I'd say, effective way. The first academic that would buy into what we were doing was a woman by the name of Angela Lee at the Kellogg School of Business. And Angela signed up on Qualtrics and launched Qualtrics for her students and also for her faculty research. And then came up with this idea that I want to collaborate outside of my university with other researchers. And this was early on. So what happened was she started collaborating with other faculty, and people started to jump on board, and just like this it happened. No, I'm just kidding. It was like a 10-year laborious process. But now we have over 95 of the top 100 business schools and 1,300 universities globally that are collaborating on Qualtrics. I promise there's a point to all of this. The interesting piece of this is there's over 500,000 academics that are being trained to collect data online and do research. This was the only group that would really adopt us for a long time. In 2007, 2008, something crazy happened. Here we are, just moved out of the basement, a startup with no funding, and the recession hits. I used to wear a pin that said, "No recession." I had a line through it because I wouldn't participate in it. But it was totally counterintuitive because our business started to take off. And it started to take off in the corporate world. And it started to take off in the enterprise. Organizations that would not listen to us before started calling us back. Airlines that we had talked to and said, "Hey, look, you need to implement a voice of the customer program, or you need to collect primary research online. It's really easy," started calling us and saying, "You know how we told you that our customers would just call? Actually, we're having a pretty bad year. We need to know that every decision we make or execute on is going to be right. Throwing mud at the wall is not a solution anymore." And our business took off in the corporate side. Now we have over 5,000 enterprises. We're onboarding over 600 enterprises a quarter. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because this gives us a pretty unique view of what's going on in the world of data collection and research. Last year alone, there were over 1 billion surveys sent out on Qualtrics. And that was more than the 9 years prior combined. And this year, we've already doubled that between our academic and our corporate user base. So the reason why I talk about this is because we have a pretty unique view of what's going on globally. And if you peel back the onion, you say, who are these people and what are they doing? You find out pretty quickly that they're not all researchers. We have 480 people, I think, registered for this conference, or 400 in this room. But there's 50,000 live projects going on right now on our platform. and they're not researchers. So if they're not researchers, what are they? DIY users gone rogue? That's what concerns a lot of people, right? I hate the word DIY, by the way, because DIY is just another word for technology. You know, LinkedIn's DIY. I've never heard Google used as a DIY tool. A telephone's DIY. There used to be a middleman there, right? I haven't rented a car in 9 months because I just get off the plane and hit my Uber button and the car picks me up. I did that 10 times over the weekend in San Francisco. These are insight seekers. They need insight. I was at a wedding this weekend. A gentleman comes up to me, 2 years out of Stanford MBA, saying, Ryan, I just got hired on at a large retailer, not a researcher. I need data. I need your platform. I was approached by a product manager. I was wearing a Qualtrics shirt. He comes up, hey, I love you guys. He works for one of the top 3 software companies in the world and has a $50 million budget. Smart cat. How do you know us? Well, I use you for everything I'm doing, from pricing studies to try concept tests. I didn't even know that existed. Why? You're not a researcher. Why don't you go through your research department? And it just became very clear that this person has a $50 million budget. And when they need to collect data, they need to collect data quickly. So our conversation turned very quickly to enabling this individual and how that's going to work. So as we peel back the onion a little bit more and ask ourselves, with 50,000 people running projects, what are they doing? They're running voice of the customer, NPS, concept testing, pricing studies, website feedback, internal research. Then there's this big argument, well, it's not right. They shouldn't be doing this. And then their arguments, well, it's probably better to be first than right. So there's this constant push and pull here on whether you arm the insight seekers in the organization, which there's an argument that they're going to do it anyways, or how do you help them? Because it's happening. And if you peel back the onion a little further and you ask, well, why are they gathering insights? And the answer is very simple. They want to be right. Everyone wants to be right. What if you executed every single problem or task for your organization 100%? That'd be a cool world, right? I know it would be in our world. Execution's everything. And the data's available. And it wasn't available 5 years ago. It wasn't available when we started. I was recently at a conference where Eric Schmidt had everyone pull out a dollar bill in their pocket and said, what does it say on the back? And it says, United States of America. Below that, in God we trust. I'm saying, okay, oh great, a religious lesson from Eric Schmidt. But he said, no, seriously, in God we trust. That means everyone else bring data. The old CEO of Netscape used to say, if you have data, we'll use data. If you have opinions, it's going to be mine. So the problem is, all these insight seekers out there at a conference just like this, and someone's up there saying, data, 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 bring me data. It's not just the research people. So all over your organizations, people are being told that they need data. I subscribe to this model. At Qualtrics, we're one of the most data-driven organizations I've ever seen, and we're super transparent with it. There's been a lot of articles written about how we believe in radical transparency and showing data to everyone, and if you have data, you can make better decisions. So your entire organization's being taught this. I believe it because I think that data-driven companies are the only companies that are going to win in the future. So what do we do with it? How do we enable people? And if data-driven organizations are the ones that are going to win, The researchers in this room should have a really big seat at the table. There's probably not a more important seat I can think of than those individuals that are responsible for gathering this insight and data. But as we go around the country, I've had over 1,000 customers in 5 different roundtables in a room. That's not happening. The seats at the table are not getting bigger. And you start asking yourself why. Because it's not about just collecting the data. It's about consumption internally and making that data prevalent in the organization. I'm sure at this conference you're going to hear a lot about big data. How many hear about that or are sick of hearing about it? Happens a lot, right? I just sat on a panel in New York. This is like the 5th big data panel I sat on. And the editor of VentureBeat had 5 data companies lined up. Says, Ryan, we're going to start with you. I'm like, oh, great. What the hell is big data? And every company that was up there answered it differently. There's not very many people in this room that are worried about terabytes and petabytes, are there? I don't think so. Our engineers are. But that's not the problem here. It's not the depth of the data, it's the breadth. It's the data's coming in throughout the organization with all these insight seekers, that it's coming in all these different formats from external and internal vendors. And it's all these different structures of data. And the challenge is how to get that all into one spot and how to make it so it's visible and actionable throughout the organization. And I believe the most important data for anyone is the data you don't have. Because if you had it, you would have done something with it. And there's an argument that you already have a ton of data and you're not doing something with it. Because it's hard. It's hard to execute on it. It's the problem that everyone's figuring out or trying to figure out and making a push. And to do that, the data that you're collecting, both internally and externally, has to be able to play and integrate with the other systems that are going on. And there is a huge push for this in the world. I believe that in the near future, we are going to have, and it's obviously something Qualtrics is trying to tackle, a CRM for insights. Everyone's trying to become the data hub. You can see it with Salesforce.com. See it with Adobe on the marketing suite. They acquired Omniture. See it with ExactTarget on the delivery side.